Hey, everybody, welcome back to Elevated Office Podcast. My name is Eric McGrew. I am the owner, host, producer, marketer, lazy bum of Elevated Office. And today I have with me as a guest Zach Richards. You may know him as zigzagman.zr. Hey, Zach, where did that even come from?
Uh, from my past.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it like that then. I was just curious because I was like, that is an interesting handle. So
It doesn't
there you
have
go.
anything to do with the climbing device. Let me just put
Yeah,
it that
I
way.
kind of figured. So you may be wondering, we don't really know what we're going to talk about in this episode. To be quite frank with you, there will be a title after the episode's done, right, Zach? I mean, what we're going to talk a little bit about climbing gear, rigging
Yeah,
gear,
dude.
yeah, iPhones.
Yeah, well, they
Who
are
who
cool.
knows, right? It'll go where it takes us. But before we get into all that, of course, I have to remind you guys of my sponsors. So really stoked to have my sponsors. They really help make putting out this podcast practical. There's a bit more expense to it than a lot of people realize. So uh Gap Arbor Supply has been a huge help to me for the past year. Can you believe, man, that it's been a year, Zach? That's how
Since
long?
when? Since the last time that we did this?
No, since I started with Gap Arbor Supply.
Oh, man. Yeah,
Because
I'm coming up, I guess, on my third year, not buying from them, but being an ambassador with them.
yeah, I was fortunate enough. You put up a post for their Black Friday sale last year,
Oh,
and
yeah, all right.
I bought because of that. And then I made a public post on Instagram, and um, Ray was impressed enough with it that he's like, "Hey, man, I've got special pricing for you." I was like, "Awesome."
Oh, yeah, sick, dude.
Yeah, and Ray like got it started from there. I mean, once you have one sponsor, it's easier, of course, to get others. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
he also helped me out with contacting Weaver, which I'm super stoked about. Um, so that's another one of my sponsors, of course, is weaverarborist.com. So I have to give a huge shout out to gaparborsupply.com because, well, they're awesome. Um, Weaver's really amazing as well. I once I got to know them better and saw what they're trying to do with their products, they actually have a lot of interesting products. Unfortunately, they just don't seem to be as well known as they could be or should be. Um, Plus, the new division in the arborist segment is really trying to put out new stuff and be innovative as well. We've got arbshirts.com. If you go down the menu to topics, elevated office, any of the designs in that category are designs that I created myself. And if you buy one of those shirts, I get a small commission of that sell. So that helps out Elevated Office and me. And then we have just senditsaws.com with Lucas over there, porting, building, all these saws and things like that. He has Sumura light bars, Archer chains, and some other stuff. He sells West Coast saw stuff. So go see if there's anything there that you're interested in. He also has bench grinders that you can buy that are what is that brand, Zach?
Uh, Tecumseh or
Tecumseh.
Tacoma. I'm
Yeah.
not really sure how you say it,
Yeah.
but they basically well, you probably know that, but I got Oregon bench
Yeah.
grinders on my in my shop,
Yep.
but Tech they say on the back if you look Tecumseh makes them anyway, so
Yeah. And in
they're
fact,
the same.
we were talking about that the other day, and I actually did a comparison, and they are the same. I
Yeah,
don't I don't know that there's any difference on any of the models. I think they're exactly the same on all of them.
I
So,
think on the most high end model,
yeah,
which for them is like the Jolly Roger maybe or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, something
And
weird.
then yeah, and then the Oregon is the 620. The handles, everything's the same, but then the lowest model that they make, I think that the handle on the clamp might be a little bit different, just aesthetics.
Oh, okay.
There's no functionality difference, I believe.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I'm super stoked to have a grinder in my shop, bro.
Yeah, dude. They
Hit, hitting a rock
they
with a skip two chain that's 36-inch long. Yeah.
yes. They're phenomenal for repairing damaged chains for sure.
Yeah.
A little bit of get a little touch on them and they're awesome for actually I found that I can make chains last longer than by hand filing. Like I can take less from just touching it up with the machine.
Yeah. So
Um
what's funny about that is that you actually touched on a subject we hadn't really talked about talking about, but I actually had this conversation with what is his name on Instagram? Arbor photographer,
I don't know who you speak of.
the guy that does all the nice photography for Arbor on the job sites he works on.
Oh, yeah,
Arbor
I think
photographer,
maybe I know who
like
you're
that is his
talking about, but I don't know the name of his profile off the top of my head. So
name.
sorry to him.
Yeah. It's Austin Maidment is his name, and it's Arbor photographer is
Okay.
is his handle on Instagram. You guys should go check him out. He does like high-end photography on site, which is pretty cool actually. And we've chatted a couple of times through Instagram messaging and things like that. Um, but he actually was talking to me about this grinder because I put a photo up that I had gotten it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, the truth of the matter is though, my shop's in a wreck because my truck is still broke down and I just haven't had time to get everything organized back the way I want it to be. So I haven't even taken it out of the box, right? But I do have experience with grinders, so I can still speak about grinders, even though don't have this one in action yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people have this rumor and myth that grinders, the machine grinders, are they ruin your chains. Have
Yeah,
you ever-
if you suck at using them, then yeah, I would say that that's true, but I mean, you can ruin a chain with hand files too if you don't know what you're doing. So,
Yeah. So this is what I found. Tell me if you found something different. Okay. Um,
yeah.
one thing I do know is that people ruin their chain teeth when they are grinding them with a electric grinder, whether it be the handheld like Dremel style or the bench grinders, right? Um, when they trying to match the length or get a damaged chip out of the edge, and they're trying to take off a chunk, you know what I mean? Relatively a chunk of tooth. Um, they grind it too hard in one go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you have to tap, tap, tap.
Yeah, because what
Basically
it
what it
does
is.
is it dehardens your chain.
Well, it's yeah, it melts it. So then like you have melted metal and like I think oh, well, I'm not like a chemistry guy or anything, but when you melt something, you actually change the chemical composition of it to a point. It's just never going to be the same. I mean, it's just the same as like put a piece of plastic in the microwave and you know melt it
Yeah.
to a puddle. It's never going to be the same.
So depending on how hot, because I used to be a purchaser for raw materials of steel and stainless for manufacturing.
Yes,
So metallurgy is something that I have some kind of comprehension on.
more than
Um,
me.
so the thing is that certain kinds of steel, like a hardening steel that you would harden for like chain teeth, right, or a knife blade, um, within certain ranges, you can heat them up and de-harden them. You've tempered it again, and it can not be changed enough to really affect it if you re-harden it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But even if that's the case, like a tooth, um, it's hard when you do that edge real hard like that and you don't tap, you just make one pull down on it and it grinds it off, um
Yeah.
it's de-hardened that portion of the tooth or the whole tooth depending on how hot it gets.
Yeah. Well, no one. Yeah, most guys that are sharpening the chain wouldn't even know
Yeah.
any of that. So, I mean, I
And then
watched a bunch of videos when I got my grinder, my first one, and everybody said tap tap, just don't just dig right into it. So that's what I've always done. And when I worked for a production company, you know, that would be one guy's job on a rain day would be to sharpen like, you know, like 40 chains or something. So he would
Yeah.
just, you know, destroy them all,
Hmm.
you know, and that was, and so, you know, as a result, everybody that worked there had this stigma about electric grinders that they sucked and they didn't get chains right. And, you know, the truth of the matter was that it was just the way that it was being used.
Yeah, and that's it. It's funny because if it's done right, like you said, if you keep it cool, you just tap, 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 tap until you get it to where it needs to be, you know, then you don't change that hardness of the tooth. But when you do change the hardness of the tooth, that's when they don't hold an edge, or the teeth snap off.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, so recently I had my 461 out on a job, and dude, I don't know what was in the tree. We never found out. But you know how it goes. You find that one piece of something in the tree that, I mean,
Yes.
how can it be a 60-foot trunk and you're just like bucking it up and you find that one bolt head?
You got the same luck I do.
You know,
That's,
it ripped 6 of my teeth off.
yeah, they'll do. That's unfortunate. At
Yeah.
that point, I just throw the chain in the trash. Even if I lose like one or two,
Well,
I just don't even care. I just throw them away.
well, it was a 25-inch chain and it was brand new. Like literally had one cut on it. Um,
Yeah, that's a little demoralizing.
yeah, so I just took it back to my mechanic and she replaced the teeth for me, and it was still cheaper than buying a new chain for me. But we had to match all the teeth to length, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And so that, because yeah, you ripped off 6 teeth, but the other teeth were all gnarled up too, you know? Um, so we had to like grind them all down, and so I can get 2 grinds out of that chain now and it'll be done.
well, that's better than zero.
Yeah. So, that's where, but my point of that was that's where those grinders come in really handy, because trying to match a length, take off that much material by hand, no, forget it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like Buck and Billy Ray. I don't watch a whole lot of his stuff because they're all like 30 and 40-minute long videos, and I don't always have that kind of time. But he does seem to really know how to sharpen a chain. He did like a Mythbusters type thing where he filed a bunch of teeth to different lengths,
Yeah.
and as long he determined that as long as you get your angles correct, it doesn't matter.
Oh, really?
They, yeah, which is kind of something to keep in mind when you're hand filing. Um, that I kind of saves me a little headache counting strokes and stuff like that. It doesn't so much matter the length of the tooth as much as it matters that you get all your angles right, because
Gotcha.
each raker, if you're using a tool to bring your rakers down, each raker is going to be the appropriate height for that given cutter tooth. Um,
Yeah.
but when I use a machine, obviously that takes the all that
Guesswork
out
out
of
of it.
play anyway. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
they're all straight then.
So do you run 2 grinders in your shop, one for angle, one for rakers?
Yes.
Yeah. Eventually I'll get to that.
Well, I didn't always have it like that, but when I wanted to upgrade to the higher end grinder, I just set my old one up just straight for rakers, and that actually saves me the time of switching wheels and stuff, which isn't like a huge deal. But hey, I got a second grinder, so
Yeah,
what the
why
heck?
not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does that, but that kind of stuff is the kind of stuff that can motivate you to get out there and actually do it versus demotivate you from doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a lot of the kit that I have in my truck, I don't have to have for climbing, but honestly, when I'm tired at the end of the week, having that extra ease is like, okay, I can handle getting the tree a little easier today.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I
I know.
mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Because a lot of it we don't have to have. I mean, think about how guys used to climb, but some of it's just that when you've worked that hard, it's just nice to not have to work so hard, if that makes sense.
No, I completely agree.
So yeah, I totally agree. And by the way, same thing. I bought one of those steel Dremel style grinders.
Okay.
They're junk. Um, they like they have a 1960s lamp roller switch on them to turn it on and turn it off, right? And the thing feels like the most plasticky China made piece that you'll ever find to put in your hands, okay? No ergonomics, nothing, right? But they do have a good depth gauge on it. And if you know how to hand file well, it makes sharpening your chains in the field much faster.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Uh, yeah. I mean, for me, I maybe my. I mean, it would probably be a little bit different if I owned a company and I was letting guys use my saws and stuff. But as a contract climber, no one uses my saws but me.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't have that luxury.
right. Yeah. No, and I would. Yeah, I mean, I cringe if somebody. Most of the time, I say something, but every now and then, when I'm working with buddies, like I'll let them use one of my saws. But I don't like the way people run my saws. Um,
Yeah,
so,
I know the
but
feeling.
yeah, like if I hit metal, I've got you know a lot of other saws that I can get. I can pick up to finish the day, and then I can just fix it when I get home. So I honestly can't even remember the last time that I sharpened a saw in the field.
Yeah, because I haven't had a good bench grinder at home, I find myself sharpening out in the field more than I'd like. But recently I picked up I have almost 3 chains for every saw, right? And I
Yeah,
carry
I'm
them
the
on
same
me.
way.
So if worst case scenario, all I have to do is change the chain. But um so the unfortunately since Zephyr is leaving, I'm stuck with a whole bunch of guys that don't have much experience. And that means they don't have much experience sharpening either, which we're trying to teach them. But in the meantime, I need work done. And I'd rather spend a few minutes sharpening their saws than them run my saws.
Yeah, I can see that.
So the hand grinder comes in very handy because it has 2 alligator clips. It just clips onto like your battery of your truck.
All right.
I have an auxiliary for a crane. I have a winch cable plug. You know those ones that you put like on ATVs, or if you have a winch that's removable, you unplug them.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just clip the alligator clips to that, and it makes it run as well. But
Nice.
everybody's like, oh, those things, the Dremel ones, and that they're awful. They ruin your chains once again. But once again, it takes a very light touch, and you have to be able to hold an angle. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you can't hold an angle in the 3 dimensions you have to level and at the right angle, then you're going to ruin the chain. But you're going to do that with a hand file too.
Exactly.
And it's not going to waste your chain. Everybody's like, oh, they eat too much of the chain. Well, how hard are you pressing on that stupid tooth?
Yeah, you don't have to take half the cutter away.
Yeah, you just need to finesse it. So, anybody out there that's wondering, they do work, they're handy. If you do a lot of in the field sharpening for your style of business, I think they're worth it. I do recommend, though, that you learn how to actually sharpen. I mean, you know,
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know how to sharpen, like, there's no, there's no device that is going to help you do better at that, except your own brain
yeah, no,
and
for
just
sure.
learning.
Yeah, that's without a doubt. So, yeah, something for you guys to think about. This isn't me and Zach aren't the most animated about this topic because it's not our favorite topic, but I do think it's something that needs to be explained to people. You know what I mean?
It's for me, it's work. It's like what I
Yeah.
dread doing on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm like, oh, I gotta go sharpen saws and clean them up.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, I need to get my saws cleaned anyway, but that's a whole nother topic.
So I want to thank everybody for stopping by and checking out this episode of Elevated Office Podcast with Zach Richards as my guest on the show today. Please don't forget to stop by and check out my sponsors, GapArboristSupply.com, WeaverArborist.com, JustSendItSauls.com, and also ArbShirts.com. Don't forget, if you buy the designs that I've designed under the Elevated Office topic on Arb Shirts, I get a small percentage of your buy, and that helps keep the show going as well. And one last thing, please don't forget to check out our Patreon page. And if you don't feel like becoming a member, which I can understand as well, there's always an opportunity for you guys to be basically producers of the show, in the sense that you can give me a donation for the show, and then I will mention you guys' name at the end of the show as well. And it's not a monthly commitment at all. So thank you all, and I will have the next episode of our interview with Zach Richards coming out soon. Thanks.